The Building Better Relationships Journal and Meditation. We created the Building Better Relationships Journal and Meditation so you can magnetize the better relationships you want and focus on the positive role that you have in creating a better life through your relationships. We are excited for you to discover the gold within you that can help you manifest the love we all crave. The Building Better Relationships Journal has coaching questions that help you listen to the truth of what you want and what helps you to be empowered in love. The Building Better Relationships meditation is designed to strengthen your heart's ability to be that change you wish to see in the world. Why not download it now and think of it as a gift to those you love? If you love journaling and meditation, this is for you. Welcome to Building Better Relationships at Home and at Work with Angela and Patti podcast. This is Patti, a leadership and work-life balance coach from Arizona, USA.
And this is Angela, love and relationship coach from Sydney, Australia. And we are building better relationships with you.
Sharing new perspectives on being heart-centered at home and at work.
So you can draw on your inner power to make your relationships and the world a better place to be around.
Hi, Patti.
Hi, Angela. Have you ever replayed a conversation hundreds of times, trying to figure out what you should have said differently? Maybe someone didn't reply, they ghosted you, passed the buck, or ended a relationship without an explanation. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the conversation itself, it's finding peace when there is no resolution. Welcome to Building Better Relationships with Angela and Patti.
And today we're exploring something many of us experience but don't always talk about: overthinking conversations and carrying them with us long after they've ended.
I know that I've done that all my life and continually working on these strategies that we're going to talk about in tips. What about you, Angela?
I think I grew up perhaps the first 40 years of my life with that internal replay of conversation. Some of it was with myself, but then it was after events happened and I'd replay. So I remember that voice. It's faded. So if some of you are younger, then live in the hope that it will go. But yes, I'm very intimate with the replay of conversations well after their use-by date.
So I'm going to ask you, Angela, a question. Have you ever had a conversation that lasted 5 minutes, but it occupied your thoughts for days and days?
Yes, I think those conversations have lived with me with several big sort of events that I might have done, or big relationships or personal relationships that maybe I hurt someone or I felt hard done by. And I'd spend a long time working on that. And so I used to do it a lot in my 20s and 30s. And as I mentioned, I don't do it so much now. And I would, in my 20s and 30s, if I liked someone and I was very insecure, I'd really struggle with what's a good way to come back to the relationship or stand up for myself if I had felt I'd been taken advantage of. So I just replay that conversation. Well, I didn't think what I said was right. I should have said this. And I didn't stand up for myself. So I did the wrong thing. So that happened a lot.
Why do you think so many people replay conversations long after they've happened?
So we learn to replay conversations from our very earliest experience in relationships, from birth to 6 years of age. And that's where we learn all of our patterns of relationships. If at any time your needs or wants were minimized from 0 to 6 years of age, or your voice was not allowed to be heard, you start making patterns in relationships where people may hear what you say but not respond to you, or they dismiss you, or they ignore you. And sometimes the other person wasn't really dismissing you, but the child learns or creates a belief that they're not enough, and the emotions and thoughts of the child create the story that never ever finishes until today's podcast. We're going to give you today some pointers on how to stop the habit of thinking over and over about that feeling, unhealed feeling about yourself. So some of the thoughts that the child might create are, I'm not really good at communicating what I want or need, or nobody cares about what I want or need, so I'm not important. And you replay those conversations over and over in your head that go around those core patterns we create when we're very young. But it's never too late to learn and have a different way of relating to how you communicate, and stop the replay of conversations when you start hearing what's actually underneath the replaying of the conversation. Does that resonate at all, Patti?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. So, Angela, you're going to tell us a little bit of a story about working in a group. So, you want to go ahead and give us an example or tell us the story of what exactly happened?
Yeah, so you know that my situation, so you've been able to support me through it. So groups are sometimes a perfect place to trigger those first patterns that you created as a child. And my example was when I was working in a group and the people wanted something accomplished in the group. That's why we had come together, but they weren't contributing equally. People weren't taking their share of the work, and some wouldn't follow through on what they said they were going to do. And some of the other members of the group needed help to do some really basic things. And then other people would question me, why are we doing it this way? Why don't we do it that way? But then they wouldn't take action, and they wouldn't follow my advice when I said, we're doing it this way. So after that, any of the group meetings, I would replay so many conversations in my head. Why didn't they do what they said they would do? Why didn't they reply to my message? Why do I have to do all the work? Why don't they see what to do? Are they thinking I'm going to do that as well as everything else I'm doing? Why don't they help, especially when I ask them to help me? And so the frustration made me replay conversations over and over. And I started thinking about how to change the way I speak. So part of the conversation was me complaining a lot about them. Then I complained about myself. How can I communicate differently to get them to react differently? And the people were responding in so many different crazy ways that no matter what I did, it didn't work. So I started to question myself, how I was communicating. Was I communicating well enough? And then I'd question that they just didn't care about what I needed. So there was this lovely circuit that was created. They don't care about me. And that's when I got really upset.
Mm-hmm.
So
that happens a lot in the workplace. Oh, I'm sorry, Angela. That does happen a lot in the workplace as well as in groups.
Because groups are workplaces. Workplaces are groups.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm using a group example, because it might be a boss or a leader in the group that triggers you, but then when the whole group is in there, you can't get away because it's all coming at you from all different angles. And so when I got to the part of the conversation, which was like a loop, why did they do this? Why did they do that? Maybe it's me. They don't care about me. I was so hurt, and I really felt they didn't care. And no one cares about me and my needs And finally, I got to the lesson. I ended up seeing after a long time that this was connected to my early childhood, where I felt no one really cared and no one had the time or the energy. I had very busy family, busy parents, people distracted around me. I was the youngest child. So they didn't have the time to care about my needs or look out for me. So final realization, the end of that group, because each group I've had, Patti, gives different lessons, but this group I learned one pattern of mine was I'm consistently giving more than was healthy for me. But it wasn't why they behaved that way. Why wouldn't they help? Why weren't they doing enough? No, that's not. Normally we complain about others, but that's not the point. The point was, why was I giving more than what was healthy for me? And underneath that, the lesson I got was that as a child, I grew up with a pattern where I thought my needs were never important. So I create unhealthy balance in relationships where I give more in the hope that people would see how much I want to be loved. So it's really fascinating, Patti, how I finally got to that, because it took a while.
Mm-hmm. And once you figured that out, how did that help you with understanding that cycle of what you were experiencing?
I think I realized that I wasted, we're going to talk about this later about rumination. I wasted a lot of time looking for love. So basically, as in many of the other podcasts we work on, I just created some better boundaries, not for the other people, but for me, and learning how to say no. I'm not going to do that. Or that's too much for my body. I don't have to do that to get somebody to like me. So it was more communicating the boundaries to myself that I realized, oh, I don't have to be that way. Finally, when I saw it was my younger self that needed to be loved. So I started looking after myself, which being older, I think that's easier to do. When you're younger, you're still looking for people's approval or agreement with the way you see the world. So I don't expect people to agree with the way I see the world as well. And it's still an ongoing process too, about making sure my body's in balance and healthy in the way that I do my exchanges. So it's an ongoing lesson, but it was a very big one. That's why it was so annoying. The group was more annoying because the lesson was more necessary to make sure my body was in balance.
And did you feel that it seemed like in every group that you belonged to or went to, the same patterns were happening until you had the realization of what was happening and why it was happening?
To a degree, but I've also had other groups where I've been very supported. But this group was a very special group because they were so scattered and the lesson was so annoying. I had to go deeper. And that's the benefit of the annoying circumstances that replay those annoying thoughts. There's something big there for you. There's some genuine, beautiful lesson there. But like me, you might spend a lot of time complaining about the other people and getting to the nobody cares about me. But it might take a long time to get there. But there's that, the more annoying, I'm convinced the better the lesson is for you. It'll just be a bit more painful than other groups. Yeah. So we're going to look at how we can look at ways to look at these conversations that replay. And Patti, you brought to me a really interesting way of looking at the conversations through different lenses. Can you look at it through reflection versus rumination? And I'm a ruminator. My mum was, so I got the same habit. Can you describe for us what's reflection versus rumination?
Yeah. No, thank you, Angela. So when you're in healthy reflection, you're asking yourself, what can I learn from this? What boundaries do I need? And what is this teaching me? And as we were talking earlier, you heard Angela say some of these things. And that was healthy reflection. When you're ruminating, you're saying to yourself, or you're asking yourself, why did they do that? Why don't they care about me? What if I had said this? What if I had done that? And we heard when Angela was talking about her journey, some of these questions she was asking herself, they might have been worded differently, but they're pretty much the same. One of the things that you learn is growth comes from learning the lesson. This is a life lesson. What did I learn from it? And suffering comes from trying to solve what may never have an answer. So I'm going to give you an example, a work scenario. A manager gives feedback during a meeting, and the employee spends the entire weekend thinking, was I being criticized? Do they think I'm failing at my job? Should I have defended myself? But in reality, the manager may have been talking in general, and they have already moved on and thought nothing more of it. What you might want to ask is, was the feedback helpful to me? Was the feedback true? And can it improve my job performance? So that's kind of turning it to asking questions about the meeting and going back and looking at the meeting in a different way, not from a judgmental way, but to a how can I improve way.
Yeah, I love that. So you're catching rumination versus reflection is a really good way to look at the quality of the conversation.
Right. Putting it in a more spin on what am I learning from this conversation, and not, am I being criticized from the conversation?
Great. I love that. So now we're going to call out one of the classic loops of the replay conversations, the should have loop. And can you describe that loop for us? And what happens after a difficult interaction too, because that's when I have it.
Yeah. So you're constantly thinking about it, about what happened in the conversation, and you go into the, I should have said this, I shouldn't have said this, I was too harsh, I was too quiet, I should have explained better. All of those things you're going into, shoulda, and I didn't do that. And you're replaying the situation over and over again. And a great discussion question for everyone: have you ever replayed a conversation so many times that you started rewriting the situation or the history of it? You started making things in your mind that really truly didn't happen, but you've been replaying it for so long that it starts to kind of warp a little bit. How many out there have done that? The replay doesn't change what happened. It only drains your energy in the present. So getting yourself out of the loop. And one of the things that I do to get myself out of the loop is I'll say the words clear, 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 clear until it's not there anymore. I just keep saying it over and over in my mind. And I want to tell you, it does get you out of that loop.
So can you describe that for us? You're seeing that your head is going into ruminating.
Yes. Yeah,
Is that
I'm
the
going
first
into
step?
I'm going into that loop and I'm ruminating really bad. And I know that I need to get out of this because it's not helping me. It's actually making me more anxious. I'll start, saying in my mind, clear, 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 or affirmations or breathing to get me out of that headspace. But because if I stay in that headspace, it's just going to keep revolving and turning and stuff. So I found that if I do those simple things, it removes me out of there.
I do a similar thing when I notice a lot of thoughts. I ask to release the energy and I imagine and breathe it down the body. That's one of the strategies I use from dance and movement so many times. I just ask to release it down my body. That's really interesting. So we're going to move to some other strategies to stop the mental replay. So I'll share one strategy is to give yourself a reflection time limit. So instead of allowing it to keep going all day, going back to what Patti shared from the work environment, if you're getting feedback, you can ask very direct questions. What happened? What did I do well? Or what was good? And what would I do differently next time? And then
that is a good one. What would I do differently next time? That helps so much because you've learned from it and you know that you're going to be doing it differently next time.
And then if the mental replay keeps on happening, then we'll go to the next strategy. Maybe it's this one that you need to try.
Ask yourself if action is needed. Sometimes peace comes from the action. So here's some questions to ask yourself. Do I need to apologize? Do I need clarification? Do I need another conversation? And if it's yes, take that action. If it's no, practice letting go of the conversation. A question to ask yourself is, if I stop replaying the conversation, how will I feel? Would I feel better? Better sleep, more peace, more confidence, greater focus, more energy for what truly matters. And like I had said earlier, just clearing it out of your mind, how much better do you feel than in that loop? I know I feel much better when I'm not in that loop.
And it may creep back. So
yes,
another strategy. I work with a lot of empathic people and highly sensitive people. I'm a highly sensitive person, so I've had to learn these strategies to manage myself. So if the loop creeps back, it's not a big deal. It's just how your nervous system recycles fears. So this strategy is for those of us who also pick up a lot of other people. Sometimes, like Patti, we're going to talk later about that thing I mentioned where you feel like people don't care. That's a classic sign of a oversensitive person or highly sensitive. They are different. I know people who are highly sensitive but not oversensitive. They're highly sensitive because they pick up. Oversensitive means you're just too triggered by certain things. or empathic can mean that you feel others, as well as being overly sensitive or highly sensitive. And so there's an interesting part in this, Patti, where we're over responsible as well. We've got another podcast about taking on too much other people's emotions or reactions and things that maybe people don't understand. They make mistakes they don't understand. So empathic and oversensitives may replay other people's emotions or care about other people's emotions and needs. So for those people who are overcarers, you can be reminding yourself you can be compassionate or empathic without carrying the responsibility for others' emotions or everyone else's emotions in the room. And for those of you who are oversensitive, that's a practice. There's no other way to get around that. You're going to have to beat yourself up to practice and learn that one. That's why those groups are very good. The bad groups are really good because they're like a boxing ring where you have to learn not to pick up.
Yeah, and Angela's coached a lot of empaths, so she knows those kind of tools to help the empath to be able to cope in that kind of environment. Yeah, and many of us are very caring and thoughtful people. The challenge is that caring too much, like Angela said, you become over responsible of other people's emotions, other people's reactions, other people's misunderstandings, and you take it upon yourself. So Angela knows that, and she helps people with that kind of thing.
You do too, Patti, because I can imagine as a leader, you have to learn how to not take on and take action.
Yeah. It's easier said than done a lot of times if you don't have the tools to know how to cope. Yeah.
So this next segment, we're going to look at a common misperception or perception. I'm not sure if it's a misperception, but it's a common perception. Let's say, why am I giving more than I receive? So some of the one common belief I've found, and I think we were talking about this, Patti, is that when we're replaying conversations, we tend to think other people should do relationships the way we do relationships, which for me is a misperception, because when you're a child, you grow up thinking, oh, my adult care people around me or the older people around me respond in this way, and we project what we think they are. We make up stories. So what happens, I see in the adults, they do the same thing. They think other people should behave a certain way when they don't. Mm-hmm. And there's, in the replay of conversations, the following sort of stories that I hear. Why am I carrying this relationship? Why am I trying harder than they are? Why do I care so much? And so the question that I ended up learning from that group experience I shared earlier was, why are you giving more than you receive? So for each of us, the question that comes out from a group experience may be different slightly. But for me, it was in that circumstance, why am I giving more than I receive? And this led me to the actual truth, or the reality is that not everyone approaches relationships the way I do. So some people, we invest deeply, we communicate openly, but we communicate differently, and we relate to follow through differently. So today in our society, a lot of people don't reply to messages. A lot of people don't open emails. It's too much to reply to. But our perception here says, why didn't they reply to my message? Why didn't they do this? And they may simply just have a different way of following through on communication. They may have different prioritizing of relationships to you. Some people avoid responsibility. It's just how people are. They don't have the same emotional investment as you. So I find this very common in personal relationships, Patti, where one partner blames the other person for not responding to them, whether it's physical intimacy, verbal communication of affection, whether it's distribution of household tasks. So they don't invest in the same way with those love languages, we sort of generally call it, or they just communicate and express and share themselves differently in the home environment or in the intimate relationship. And then the other person blames them for not communicating in the way that they think they should be. So it can be difficult to accept that other people give differently to you, but you're giving more because that's the way you want to express. So if you have an imbalance in any of your relationships, it can lead to these conversations replaying. And the secret is to get to the lesson. Why is imbalance in any relationship showing up for you? It's teaching you what's a priority, what's your values, and it forces you to choose who you want to have a relationship with. We can't expect people to be the same that we are, but we can choose who we have a relationship with. And if you want that loop to stop in your head, then first step is stop thinking that the other person should be like you and accept that some people have relationships differently to the way you do. And do you want to be in a relationship with that person? And that will lead to your next steps. One of our upcoming episodes, we're going to look at when to walk away from the relationship. But first, we have to accept some of these. If there's an imbalance in the relationship, what's the lesson in it for you? And this was another story that we want to explore as well, Patti, about sometimes we replay conversations in our head that, like I shared at the beginning, that some people don't care. And I spent a lot of time blaming the others until I got to the lesson. And it came to me that was one of the other things I learned from that group experience. There are some people in my life that just don't care about me as much as I might think I care about them, or they just operate differently. And I think this might be a big reason why we replay conversations, because we actually feel challenged by the thought that some people don't care. We expect people to behave differently, and they don't, and they never do. So I think one of the hardest realities is that realizing that some people don't care in the way that we hoped they would. Patti, do you want to share about people in the work environment where you had to go through this? I know it hurts when people don't care, but at our age, sometimes we learn how to accept that other people don't care, and so we move on.
Yeah, everybody's raised differently. Everybody has different personalities, different love languages, and you're mixing all these people together, right? And if you're an overachiever or you over responsibility or over care, there are people that just come in, do the minimum of the job, and leave. And that's just the way they're wired. They do the bare minimum, they skate through, and that can be very disheartening to the people that care about their jobs, right? But as time goes on, you learn that this is the way they are. They're not like you. It's hard. You might not like it, but that's the energy they want to give to the job. And they might have other great qualities that you wish that you had. So you have to look at that too. What do they contribute to the organization? They could be contributing in a whole nother way than the way you contribute. And it's trying to look at what are they contributing so that you're not feeling so jaded by their behavior on how they conduct their work life compared to your work life, and you're not comparing, I do this, they don't. What do they do? What do they contribute? They have to contribute something, right? To be able to keep their job. So those are the things that it's hard, but if you can look at what they are contributing, that may help with the circumstances of how you're feeling. How did I do on that question, Angela?
I like it because it's looking at the stories about why are they getting away with doing less, and why are they not, you're looking at the other person, but it's the way you look at them that you're starting to look at. What could be a different way that you look at them? So in coaching, we do that. We're like, is that the only way that you can look at the situation or a person in this case? Well, it is a work situation as well. So I want to share a story or an actual piece of research that's done on ants and ant colonies. And this I got from my school in India, where they talk about, if you look at any group of ants, there's always going to be 60% that are worker ants and 40% that just sort of hang out and enjoy the crowd. I'm just doing nothing, hanging out with the whole worker type ants and just hanging out here and taking up space. So in the colony, there'll be always 60% that are worker ants. And what they did is they took some of those worker ants and put it with another colony of ants. And the worker ants that were working ended up not becoming worker ants if there was more than 60%. So no matter what ants they took who were worker ants, if they put them into another colony where there was already 60% worker ants in ratio, they would become lazy or not worker ants, because the ratio of the people putting in the effort was 60% and 40% that put in less effort. And it was something about that ratio that the school in India was trying to get us to understand, that sometimes you think it's about you and the other person, but it's actually not. It's about this environment where there's something in the environment that's set up to make you upset. In a way, if we look at the human's perspective, ants don't care, because ants are just about getting the job done. So they only need 60% to do that active work, and the other 40% there are doing something else. So it reminded me of what you were sharing, Patti, that what is that person doing that just sits at the water fountain and just sort of hangs out and talks to people? And I know a lot of people, they get frustrated about the office drama and the gossip and things like that, but it's playing some other role that we don't really know. And maybe it's not really getting work done. Maybe it's doing something else in our work-life relationships. I don't know. But it definitely is triggering, because I talk to people where they get really triggered, and I know that that's important, that it's helping trigger up those unhealed hurts in the person for them to get understanding about. Whether they get the understanding is the question.
Right.
So, yeah, it just made me think about the 60% ants that are always doing the work, and there's always 40% that are just cruising along. And they play a role as well. But what role, we don't know. So I wanted to share about the thoughts around accepting people don't care, that sometimes there may be a lesson for you, if like I had when I had to go back to my early life. And just to leave you with that, to maybe there is that pattern in your early life trying to get your attention when you're surrounded by people who don't care. There's something there always. So, Patti, can you give us now some of the teachings from Reiki about, and it's a strategy as well, to stop the replay of the conversations?
Yeah, so I would like to share one of the Reiki principles. Just for today, I will not worry. Many of us worry because we're trying to solve something that isn't ours to solve. We worry about what someone meant, how they feel, whether they approve us, or why we made the choices, why they made the choices that they did. The Reiki principle, just for today, I will not worry, isn't asking us to ignore our feelings. It's in carrying unanswered questions every minute of the day. Angela and the listeners, how much of your overthinking comes from worrying about things we can't control? Let me give you some examples of possible overthinking. What someone meant, how someone feels, whether someone approves us, what might happen next, the what ifs that will probably never happen. The Reiki principle, just for today, is not, I will not worry, isn't about ignoring. It's not about ignoring problems. It's about letting go of the habit of carrying worry throughout your day. You know the differences deep down. Your intuition's nudging you. If there is something that needs to be addressed and it's not overthinking, here's some reflection questions or journal prompts to help you. What conversation am I still replaying? What facts do I know to be true? What assumptions might I be making? And is there any action I need to take? Those are some journal questions or self-reflection questions that might help you with the way that you're thinking at this point in time, worrying or overthinking.
Yeah, I really love those, Patti. I love the questions. So we'll have those in the show notes. My mind's like, let's put those in the show notes because they're really great questions to have as well. And what's the affirmation that people can use for the conversation to finally stop?
So using, like I said earlier, using affirmations can also help you to not be thinking over and over again because you're using the affirmation in a positive way. So the affirmation for today is, I can learn from my experiences without reliving them. And if you can repeat that throughout when you're in the middle of a loop, that can help you reshift your mindset to, I can learn from this experience without reliving them.
Wonderful.
And
so, Patti, go on.
Go ahead, Angela.
No, you go.
Okay. Well, not every conversation gets resolved. Not every relationship gets repaired. And not every question gets answered. but peace is still possible. Sometimes peace comes from accepting what happened and learning what it taught us and trusting ourselves enough to move forward. And it's hard, I know, that I might not ever get the answer, but trusting yourself that you can move forward and being able to accept that you might not get the answer, it can help.
Thanks, Patti. So for today, we've got our other reflection. Every episode we have an affirmation and a reflection question. And we'll put the other questions to stop that replay as well in the show notes. Our general reflection for today is, what conversation are you ready to release to create more peace in your life today?
And Angela and I just wanted to thank you for being here today. And if you have any thoughts that you would like to share or suggestions that have helped you with this topic, please comment, subscribe. And, we have a Building Better Relationship journal and meditation. If you're interested in that, we'll have it in the show notes as well.
It could be a really great way to reflect on what are those stories and those unfinished conversations or looping that goes around in the journal. And the meditation is to build that sense of your love, what you really want. So thank you, everyone. And thanks, Patti. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one.